There is actually a great divide between all of the luminaries and the leaders and the thinkers and the scientists in the AI space about whether AI will kill us all in the future or whether literally nothing will happen.
Well, I believe in humans being good enough at that we don't need technology, but I'm eager to hear more, Kate. Tell me.
Okay, so I think there's a couple things I want to cover. One is that it's very disconcerting to me that a lot of the people who are working on this technology are, leading the field, creating these super powerful models. And all the while, they believe that there's a significant percentage of a chance that when the models reach what's called superintelligence, they will basically bring about the doom of humanity.
That always catches my attention, right? Because I've seen Elon Musk definitely has spoken about it. Sam Altman, I believe in a very Sam Altman kind of way, he's talked about it. And my question is like, wait, so you're saying this is gonna kill us all? We definitely should continue exploring it. So yeah, I'm actually very interested.
Yeah, I actually created a little tool about this, which you can visit, and we'll put the link in the show notes, that actually tracks what people have said publicly and ranks them based on how much they think AI will destroy us all and how much they think that utopia is right around the corner. Mm-hmm. And you can actually vote up and down. People like Sam Altman have never publicly said, so we just sort of estimate based on his comments. Also, I've heard that some of these tech founders are a little bit more bullish on it killing us behind closed doors than they are publicly, which also brings to bear the question of why would you make a thing if you knew that it was potentially going to kill you and everyone you know?
Well, I was not expecting this episode to go this way, so all I can say is the floor is yours.
So here's a couple of things I want to talk about. One, there is a report that was put together called AI 2027. Have you heard about this?
I have not heard of AI 2027, but it sounds creepy enough for me to be interested.
Well, I think it's worth talking about today because it's basically now a year away if we're right around the corner from 2026. And here's what this research project did. It basically scenario planned how things could go with the evolving of AI. And we'll put up some, information about it, but it basically says that we start out with what we have now, which is pretty good LLM technology, AI technology, agents, right? And that then what happens over time is that they become recursive, self-improving machines.
Okay, let's pause for a minute. So if I'm understanding correctly, we have sort of this project is about a timeline, right? That shows a certain evolution. So step one is where we are right now.
Step one is where we are right now.
Okay, let's repeat. Where are we right now?
We're basically at almost the cusp of AGI. And AGI is artificial general intelligence. There's a lot of debate about what that means, but it's basically AI that can do just about everything that humans can do. And then beyond that, you start to have agentic AI, which takes actions on our behalf. We've talked about that in prior episodes, right? And then beyond that, you start to have what's called recursive self-improvement. And what that basically means is that the machine is so sophisticated that it can improve itself, it can train itself, and it can also train copies of itself, and it can grow independently of us pushing the buttons. Now, pause for a minute.
Yes.
There are people who believe this is the future. There are also people who believe that this is absolute nonsense and that the technology that we have today is incapable of improving itself. But it's worth talking about because as we're going into the year before the year that this is predicted to happen, we ought to look for the signals of whether any of these things are happening. For example, there is a startup that just started, which is all about recursive self-improvement technology. So people are working on these challenges today.
Okay, so they're working on recursive technology. Now, when narrative, and let me know if this is related to this 2027 narrative, but one thing I see a lot in the news right now, remember our last episode we say don't talk politics? Well, I need to go there, right? Because there's a lot of what's driving this evolution, or even saying we don't need regulation is the US versus China. So is this involved or part of this project or used as an excuse maybe to move things forward?
Ding, 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 ding.
You're back.
I think it's used as an excuse to move things forward. The reason why I think that is that if you think about super intelligence, right? Super intelligence is when these machines are more sophisticated than we are, and they have no interest in keeping us around, right? They basically don't need us. We are like pets to them. Whether that technology originates in the US or China or anywhere else, all of humanity is at risk. So it's not like a weapon where you can point it at a person and potentially keep yourself safe at the same time. What we reach when we get to this hypothetical scenario of superintelligence is that it's like nuclear anti-proliferation. It's like everyone will die, so we all have to get together around this issue.
That is quite a lot to absorb, right? I'm absorbing this and going like, damn, things have escalated beyond what I expected, right? But again, I want to go back and start like recapping. So we said technology is advancing, AI in this timeline gets smarter, we become more useless compared to what AI can do. We have the US going all out on one end, China going it out on the other. Now, before AI kills us all, the conversation will probably be, but before we get there, what happens to our jobs, right? Because like the first thing I think, and what I usually think it's moving this AI narrative is optimization, making everything at scale faster, better, smarter, right? So I'm assuming if AI gets to this point of intelligence where we're basically a glorified Tamagotchi, that means we don't have a job anymore.
Some people think that. Now, I just want to be clear. I do not think this is going to happen. I do not think that a super intelligent AI is going to supplant all of humanity. I personally don't. But I think what's interesting about it is that lots of people do, and they just don't seem to care. It's like they're almost divorced from the issue, and they feel like the jobs thing that you're talking about, right? That all of that is just another stepstone on the path towards an inevitable future, which for me is hard to digest. But yes, I mean, I think there is a lot of conversation about whether, like, to make it political again, like universal basic income is something that is a potential band-aid for this problem. If people don't have work that they can do, they need to have money to pay for their lives somehow. And so maybe they live on the dole.
But wait, so the government is just going to give everyone the same amount of money and decide what you do for a living? Is that
What does that
saying?
sound like to you?
Not capitalism, that's for sure.
No.
So we're saying then we get UBI, we don't have to work anymore because AI is dealing with all the annoying stuff. And like I usually say, we just spend our time reading poetry, enjoying life, and getting a deposit every 2 weeks into our bank accounts. That doesn't sound too likely to me.
It doesn't. And I don't feel like, especially in this country, that's a very palatable solution, because there is just this, sort of culture in the United States of trying to make your own success, trying to build your own future, trying to lift up yourself and your family. And how can you do that if all the power is like pulled out from under you?
That's exactly my question, right? And it's interesting that you say the US, because we also have many folks from other countries watching. So how's your country handling this? If you want to leave a comment and let us know, or what are your thoughts on UBI, this is a great opportunity. So take a minute, pause the video, leave a comment, and let's continue. So now, okay, we talk about UBI. Now, we've covered a lot about this AI 2027. It seems very kind of like Mad Max oriented, dystopian, but usually I like to say reality is dumber than that. We think about all these conspiracies, but then we cannot get folks to agree on the most basic and dumb stuff. So the first question I can think of when I hear about all of this is like, what's happening with the actual risks right now? Help me out. I'm sure I'm going to omit many risks, but at the top of my head, I can think about the bias on how data is trained, the issues with IP and training data, the concentration of capital in fewer hands as we transfer wealth from the working class to the oligarchy.
Just a lot of little problems.
Just a lot of little problems. What else? The whole economy, the whole stock market, I think it's like 40% being tied up to AI investment that we don't really know if it's going to pan out or not. So to me, when we talk about, like the moral fabric of society getting destroyed, us not being able to trust reality anymore because Sora and Grok and all of those are really great right now at creating video that is very realistic looking. What else?
Look, it's here. New Year's Eve is coming. And the metaphor I can think of is that's a pretty crazy cocktail of things that are all brewing around in that cocktail glass that are going to basically come to fruition in 2026 at some point, which is why, we sort of felt like this was the perfect time to sort of talk about the heavy stuff, because if you are aware of kind of all of the issues surrounding these things, then when they maybe go south over the course of the next 1 to 2 years, it won't take you completely by surprise.
Slop World, America's #1 party podcast. Now, what's your theory? Like, how are you feeling? Because, okay, we talk about AI 2027. We talk about the risks that are very boring, but very real as well, that we just covered. What's your takeaway on what's happening in 2026, 2027?
I feel that there's going to be a backlash against this technology that's going to sort of groundswell up from the people. I think that there's already some of it, but it's a little bit like remote. Like you kind of have a feeling that, maybe there's something going on with this stuff and you heard something from someone or you saw something on TikTok, but like you don't have a baked philosophy on what you think about AI. But I do feel that there's going to be a lot more opposition to this technology in the years to come, which as a business practitioner working on education and training and implementation of this technology is a bit of a risk for me. But that doesn't change the fact that it's not going away anytime soon and everybody needs to become more proficient with the technology itself. But I do feel like people are going to start to catch on to some of this stuff. For instance, I don't think it's a coincidence that the tech oligarchs, or whatever you want to call them, the bosses of all these AI labs, are talking about building God. It's not maybe a benevolent God that they're building, but it's kind of a flex. And like, I just don't have time for that. Like, I just don't have time for you to talk about the fact that you're building the one and only powerful God that's going to run the universe.
Is Peter T?
It's all of them, dude.
Okay. Yeah, I've been, because I was reading about him talking about the Antichrist or something, and I'm like, again, we can't say much because he likes to sue, but it's
good luck suing
good
Slop
luck.
World.
Sue us and lose money. Yeah. But yeah, I see the conversation. It's getting sort of metaphysical, when they start talking about AI being God, which reminds me of someone that wanted to be on the podcast and do an episode about talking about AI becoming God and ultimately saving my soul. But my take, I want to go with what you said, right? Like, you're an AI practitioner and you say, well, maybe is this the best time for me? And I would say, and I don't think it's a secret how I feel about the technology, and I feel many times closer to the backlash than the excitement. While I'm still very excited about the technology, I don't like to drink any drinks that might change my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more important than ever now, a role like yours, because I think many of these issues, it's all about policy, right? Like, we need policy in place. We need regulation. I know tech bros love to say regulation stifles innovation, but then they all move to Europe to live a great life. And in Europe, they have regulations. So obviously, by regulation stifles innovation, my take, not hers, not anyone else's, is that means regulation stifles our capability to steal money.
Well, don't forget that a good 3-4 years ago, Sam Altman sat in front of Congress and begged them to regulate his industry. And because they didn't understand it, in that period of time, they started to pick away at it. And now in this administration, they're doing nothing of the sort.
Well, they're saying, no, screw regulation. Drill, baby, drill. For me, my takeaway is that while this all sounds, some of it sounds so far-fetched
Yeah.
that I have a hard time grasping how real it could be. And that's on me, maybe, because some of it sounds very real. It's just that, it's hard to think, okay, things will, I still have a glimpse of hope. But to me, I keep coming back of the importance of getting involved, us being educated, and pushing for regulation, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to protect the children, protect jobs, or at least have a path forward, because jobs will evolve. There's no changing that. That's the story of the world. But how do we make sure society doesn't collapse in the meantime? So for me, if I had to think what's the best use of my time, I think that would be it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I tell my consulting clients, I work with a lot of independent one-on-one consulting clients who are trying to evolve their careers to take the next step and want to know, okay, how can I get better at AI or more educated or have experiences? And one of the things that I use to ground that conversation is that you have to find your own philosophy about this technology. Because just like in any job market situation, it is matchmaking. You have to find the right match for you for that future job. And not every company has the same perspective on this stuff. So be true to yourself. If you're like, only use AI for these very discrete use cases that I need and lean in on human creativity or innovation, like that's your philosophy. If you're like permissive with your team and say play with all the technology because it gives you great ideas and pushes the boundary of what's possible, that's your philosophy. But you have to remain true to yourself, and the only way to do that is to really kind of think about and grapple with these issues.
I love it. This is very motivational. So speaking of being true to ourselves, and 2026 coming up, I like to think about New Year's resolution, AI-oriented New Year's resolution. So do you want to share yours? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have. I think my New Year's resolution is to spend more time vibe coding. I think that Gemini 3 is fantastic at this and completely frictionless. And it's not to say that all of software development should be replaced by vibe coding. In fact, we've had a whole episode about that where we went into some of the challenges of that. And in fact, I'm currently building a website for my business the traditional way. But I do feel that the more that we can think about, and especially me as a marketer working with a lot of marketers and people in entertainment, the way we can think about how interactivity and digital can be the new frontier, how interactive experiences can be a new frontier for marketers, for entertainment, like that is only something that comes about when you get in and play with it and make and think about how your ideas come to life. So I'm a vibe code more. How about you?
I love it because as you learn, I'll ask you to vibe code things for me. Thank you, Kate. That's what friends are for. From my end, I have 2 resolutions. Number 1 is getting more involved with AI policy. Something, it's been 2-3 years doing this podcast already. Time flies. But, the more I do it and the more I learn about topics that maybe as a content producer I was not exposed to, the more I felt like a little fire lighting up. And yeah, maybe in this role of being able to have these conversations and empowering others to learn more, that's something definitely that I want to explore more. But the second one, and that's coming back to something you said just a few minutes ago, which is based around this backlash that it's brewing about AI, right? The one that got people freaking out about this new Coca-Cola ad, or the one from McDonald's that I think they pulled out.
They pulled down, yeah.
They pulled it out because people is FAI. You'll see the same on Twitter when you go to the comments. If anyone, people making fun of people asking Grok things. So I say 2026, mark my words, is the year of in real life community coming back strongly. So one of my goals, don't quote me on that, because I tend to get overexcited, but I do want to build a Slop World in real life community for 2026.
I'm getting this news for the first time now.
You're just finding out because literally thought about it 5 minutes ago. But again, that's my resolution. So keep me accountable.
I love it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Year.
Happy 2026.
May it be happy for everyone.
Yeah, may content continue being democratized by our noble visionaries.
May AI continue to be aligned to humanity's cause.
And may we make a lot of money. Every money.
Woo!
Bye.
모두 안으로 뛰어!
저게 뭐야?
서 있지 말고 들어가!